Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. I am Laurie the founder of Alzheimer's Speaks and Dementia Chats. My mother had dementia for 30 years, so she started in her having symptoms in her mid-50s and lived to the age of 86. And through her journey, she allowed me to see really the brilliance that people with dementia have and how important it is that we listen to these voices. And that's one of the things I love about Dementia Chats, because all of our panelists, all of our experts actually have the diagnosis. And so we aren't guessing anymore. We are hearing what it is really like and how they would really like to live with dementia and what they need from us. So I'm going to pass it off first to Eilon, who is my co-facilitator here, and then we will introduce our panel. So Eilon?
Hi, my name is Eilon Caspi. I'm a gerontologist and a dementia behavior specialist with Dementia Behavior Consulting here in Minneapolis. I'm thrilled to be on this cutting-edge platform for raising awareness about your lived experience and learning the lessons you learned so that others can improve their lives. I'm just very grateful to be on this show for, I should say, close to four years now. So thank you, Laurie, for doing that. And hopefully we'll have another great, meaningful session today.
Great, thank you. Paulan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Paulan Gordon, and I live in Ohio. I was diagnosed with vascular dementia 4 years ago at age 57. And I'm involved in just a lot of different groups and opportunities for advocacy. And I've written a small booklet on vascular dementia.
And that's available on Amazon, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
For 99 cents. It's a bargain.
Okay, wonderful. Michael?
My name is Michael Ellenbogen, and I'm an international dementia advocate connector, and I spend all of my time trying to focus on bringing change to this environment.
Wonderful, thank you. Laurie?
My name is Laurie Scherrer, and I'm from Ole, Pennsylvania, and I am trying to advocate as much as I can for dementia awareness and changes. I belong to the Dementia Mentor Program, where I work every week with someone who was newly diagnosed. And it's just a thrill to be on this program with you, Laurie.
Well, thank you. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Suchan. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was diagnosed early onset Alzheimer's 8 years old. I now be 5'8", and was 3 years ago FTD PPA. I advocate bringing the lived experience to people who do not know what frontotemporal degeneration is, the impact it have on family, finances, and end-of-life discussions.
Great, thank you. And Tru?
My full legal name is Truthful Loving Kindness. My current diagnosis is mild cognitive impairment. I have mild to moderate cerebrovascular disease, but quite a bit of Lewy body dementia symptoms, and currently I'm having small stroke events just about every 2 weeks. And I'm admin with Dementia Mentors and advisory council with Dementia Action Alliance.
Okay, great. Well, today we decided our topic is going to be about housing and deciding to move, and when do you make that decision, and how do you make that decision, and how it impacts somebody with dementia. And we're going to start by talking with Paulan, who is actually going through this process right now. So Paulan, if you can tell people what got you thinking about making a move, and how have you maneuvered through the process?
Well, I think what got me started thinking about the move is I'm 62 now. My husband is 67, and neither one of us are in great shape physically, and I am very concerned about leaving everything to him to take care of and manage as I progress down this road of dementia. So we decided that we would try to move to someplace near my daughter so that my daughter would be able to be a backup person and take over in the event that something happened to my husband, and make it easy for her to just pick up and take care of me. So we're moving cross country. We're moving from Ohio to Phoenix, Arizona. So it's quite a big move. And I think we're moving from a 3-bedroom house to a 3-room casita, living room, bedroom, and a kitchen office room. So that's going to be, we have to do a lot of downsizing. And it's really hard. She sent me the floor plan yesterday on the internet so I could see how things with my furniture would fit in the different spaces and everything. And she was kind of telling me, you have to get rid of that, you have to downsize. And I'm like, this is hard to downsize, not just because of the physical work of doing it, it's the emotional part of these are things I've bought all through my life, and I treasured them, or people gave them to me. I have my mother's things that when she died, I just have a lot of things that I'm very emotionally attached to. So the downsizing is a lot harder than just the actual physical move. And that's kind of what I'm going through now, is it's difficult to say goodbye to my things.
That is a tough piece, I think, for anybody at any stage of life. I know when I was in real estate, that was one of the major things that made people stop from making a move or considering it, because it's what am I going to do with all my stuff, and how the heck am I going to get through it all? And one of the tricks we used to tell people was to look at every item like a stoplight. And so green was the stuff that you knew for sure was going with you. Yellow were the caution items that you could get really emotionally attached to. And red were the ones you knew for sure weren't going to come with you. And then you made a pile for the red stuff of, is it trash? Is it items you want to give away or sell or donate? And you had those different piles. And then you left the yellow ones to go back afterwards, because once you decided on your greens and your reds, what was and wasn't going with you, it was easier to make a decision on those things. Because I remember going through my parents' home when they were going to move up to the lake, and we got lost in the linen closet for like 2 days, because there's just stuff in there. And all of a sudden, one of the things was that my mom and I were pulling our hair out over was she had like 100 washcloths for 2 people, which to me was asinine. But to her, well, I got these from this person and I got that, and Dad might need some rags. And we rationalize why we keep everything, and so you go through those processes. But then behind the linens, we found boxes of pictures or just little sentimental things that just got tucked away. And you look and you kind of go, how did I lose 2 days in a linen closet? But it happens. And I think until people have gone through the process, most people don't understand how emotional this process really is, because you're looking at not only giving up your home, and the physical structure that you're so comfortable with, but every single item in your house is being evaluated, and every single item is going to have a new spot. And when you've got dementia, that complicates things even more. How did your daughter handle that when you said to her, hey, this is a project, this is a real big emotional to-do here?
She hasn't responded to my email. Yeah, but I just kind of told her to back off a little bit. I'm trying to do the best I can. I've given away furniture to my son. I've given furniture to my daughter. I'm having that shipped out. We're going to be living in a empty house shortly after her father's taking a truckload of stuff out there to her shortly. And it's just, for me, it's the hardest thing is just emotional attachments that I have to my things. And the other hard thing is thinking that I have to do this because I have dementia and I need someone as a backup to take care of me. I'm not used to thinking that I need anybody to take care of me. I'm used to taking care of myself. And to just make that acknowledgement that, no, I'm going to need someone down the road to take care of me is hard.
Yeah. I think most people have stated that I've talked to anyways, both people that have had dementia and don't have dementia, that their life is easier once they do the weeding out and kind of get rid of the clutter. You know, you can find things faster. It just, they feel lighter as a whole. But again, you don't always feel like you're going to feel like that when you're going through the process in and of itself. And then to feel, you know, if you're attaching and feeling that emptiness of the house, you know, if you haven't been able to shift to that other side, then that's, I would imagine that's almost like a loneliness and isolating feeling as well, that you're probably feeling with that. You know, the good thing is with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to be able to pass things on as gifts, you know, for the holidays. If it's dishes or, you know, ornaments, or, I mean, there's just so many different things that can be passed on as family treasures too. Michael, how about you? Where are you at with the process? Have you and your wife talked about moving at all, or?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, just the thought of moving would drive me crazy. I know we need new rugs in the house, and I can't even get somebody to come in to do the rugs because we have to move everything around in order for that to happen. So just that thought process is keeping me from getting rugs. But it's interesting that you bring the subject up because just the other day, my wife and I had a discussion about the possibility of moving. And I think in our case, the reason for that is I used to do everything around the house and maintain everything, and I no longer do any of that. And that's a real problem because it's almost impossible to try to get my wife to pick up and learn to do what I did in 30 years or 40 years around the house, for her to suddenly assume that responsibility. And, you know, there's a lot of things that go on with keeping a house. And a lot of it's starting to fall apart because I'm no longer doing it. And I think she doesn't know how to deal with it. So I'm suggesting that we maybe consider to move to another place that will take on those responsibilities. And it's tough. It's really tough. But I guess I'm thinking that I want to look out for her behalf and try to make it as easy as possible for her and for me to be there now to support her in that process rather than her have to struggling for doing that later on. Do I want to do this? Absolutely not. But is it going to be the best thing for her and to help her and guide her and to hopefully feel more part of the process by doing it now? I think it's probably the best move. So I'll probably be looking for her decision on what she wants to do. And I think she said she'd like to think about this and start looking at possibilities in January. So we'll see where that goes.
One of the things, again, back to my old real estate experience, was really getting people to think about how much of your house do you actually use. Because most people, if they're honest, find that they're not utilizing all of their house. And so if you can really scope into, well, yeah, I use the office, the living room. We really don't even use the dining room that much because maybe we don't entertain so much. And the kitchen, and how much space do you functionally need? Then you can start logically looking at, well, you know, it's costing us money to maintain this, you know, to heat this, to, you know, do different things. Maybe it's not safe depending on the layout and design of the house. If there's steps, if people are starting to have problems with gait, or knowing that a lot of people with dementia have problems with gait. You know, so if you can start framing it in that fashion, sometimes that makes it a little bit easier, knowing that, again, everybody moves analyzing the same criteria. But when there's something, when we're ill, we look at this move as kind of an end of life thing instead of a living good life thing. And I think that that's a real mindset that you have to have, is that you're just moving to make your life easier, make your care partner's life easier. And isn't that kind of what life's about? Instead of being afraid. And I know it's much easier said than done. I totally, totally get that. But if you can start looking at it as a normal thing versus an abnormal type move. And that's one of the biggest hurdles that I found people struggled with when I sold real estate, was everybody thought it was about losing independence, and actually it's about gaining more independence, having more freedoms, and really choosing what you want to spend your time on. Is it maintaining things that you don't really need or don't really use, or don't really like to do anymore, or that cost you money to have somebody else do it, versus maybe spending that time and money in a different fashion in your life. So sometimes I think it's that whole reframing of things. And then, when you're in a relationship, it ain't just about you, you got to get both of you on the same page, which, a lot of times that can be a struggle too, because you're both in a different emotional state, in terms of your home and your possessions and things there too. But I think it's good to have the conversation, and I think pretty much everybody here will agree that they have heard that the earlier you make the move, the better off and the easier it is in the long run. Has anybody heard anything different from that in terms of making a move with somebody with dementia? Tru, go ahead.
Actually, we moved 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things was my disability. But I had begun to be cognitively disabled. We figured I had my first stroke right before that. That's how I lost my job, lost my license, et cetera, et cetera. But I still had enough cognitive abilities that I could design the blueprints. I'd been designing blueprints on the side for all of my adult life. And so we designed it so that we wouldn't have to move. Mm-hmm. Specifically, the full upstairs is for a caregiver, and everything is handicap accessible, and everything is set up specifically for disabilities. But the problem is that we're still building it. We didn't take a mortgage, so you get $1, you add a board. That's why that board's sitting right there. And that creates a lot of problems of its own as far as the constant change. We specifically did all the big changes as soon as possible so that to minimize the problems with change. But that leaves everything kind of constantly in an uproar.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Laurie, I'm going to go to you next, because one of the things we were talking about offline was the whole construction piece. And that kind of goes right into what Tru was talking. So why don't you give people a little background on where you guys are at in terms of move?
We have a very large house. We have 4 bedrooms, 2 offices, a full game room with pool and air hockey, a large swimming pool, and 2 of us living in essentially a 6-bedroom house. Don't really need that. There was a time where my family was here a lot and it seemed like we were always full, but those days are gone because I can't handle the parties and everything that I used to. So we have been starting to think we are going to need to move because it's just too big for me to keep up anymore. I did a much better job when I was working 70 hours a week, keeping up with the house, than I do now that I'm not working at all. It's very hard because my dad was in the Navy and we traveled a lot. I've lived in this house 20 years, which is longer than I've ever lived any place in my whole life. And this is home. This is where all the excitement has been and my life has been. So it's been a very difficult transition, but because we know within the next 2 years we're going to be moving, we have some things that we have to do in the house to make it more sellable. And therefore we have construction from time to time. Not to mention every penny we spend comes out of our retirement fund that was supposed to be used to have fun, but since I no longer have an income, it comes out of the retirement fund. Construction, having people in the house that you don't know, the noise, the banging, even Michael talked about replacing the carpeting. Haul all the stuff out of the bedroom, rip up the carpet, have them come in, have them here a day, and the noise, the constant noise and banging is absolutely horrible on me. But, you know, it has to be done because you need to make the house more marketable. So you start to do it now. We're going to be ripping out a bathroom in the next 4 weeks or so. And I don't look forward to that at all. That is going to be like a major head issue for me. But it needs to be done. It has to do with the pipes leaking inside the wall. On all the stuff, we don't have any children, and it's difficult when you suddenly realize, geez, nobody in this world is going to want the pictures of me in high school or my old pictures, because things you would pass down to your children, you know, and so you just figure, toss them, and it's hard to do that. And even things that I have, my grandmother's China doll. Nobody wants it. My nieces and nephews are like, oh yeah, it's nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to see things that were so special to you. My grandmother had that since she was 7 years old. You know, to me, that's just like beautiful. Kids today are in a throwaway society. They get bored easily. They don't want furniture that's going to last forever. They don't want somebody's stuff, no matter how valuable, no matter what sentiment. So you're faced with all this stuff that you're emotionally attached to and knowing nobody wants it. And I did come up with one solution, and that is I have 5 siblings, and we get together once every 2 years. Since I am the owner of all the stuff, every time we get together, I have surprise boxes. And I fill them with boxes, and they bid on the boxes. One box might have my father's toenail clippers in it. Another box might have my father's World War II medals. And the family opens their box, and they now decide what to do with it. It's been very interesting because they fight amongst each other for some of the items. You know. But that to me has been a great way to get rid of some of the stuff. Well, I didn't have a problem with the nail clippers, but they were fun. It's been a way of getting rid of some of the things that I think someone in my family should find valuable, and yet pass them on to the person that wants them. But it's hard. It's hard. Just saying goodbye to so many of the things that mean something to you is rough.
I love that idea of the boxes. I'm going to go to Michael first, but I'm going to steal that one.
I think that's going to be my biggest problem, is to deal with how to get rid of things, because I've always been a person who held on to things all my life, even things that I didn't need. I held on to them because I thought somewhere down the line I may need it, and a lot of times I did. So the way I guess I've always been brought up is to hang on to things. And I have things that most people probably don't want, but they're very valuable. I don't know how to deal with that. Who do I give that stuff to? I mean, we got paintings throughout our house. I mean, wall-to-wall paintings. They're not cheap paintings. They're real expensive paintings. My daughter, she don't want to have nothing to do with them. So it's, what do you do with these items? Because I just don't want to give them away. And I'd also like to get some return on them, not, you know, maybe what they were valued at, but at least something. How do you get rid of those things? I don't know. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem I deal with is, how do I downsize? How do I get rid of the things that I got toolboxes that are probably worth $6,000, $7,000 in tools.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter don't want to have nothing to do with that. And I don't have somebody in the family that I could even begin to say, hey, I want you to have this to enjoy for the rest of your life. I don't have somebody that I could turn to give that to. So I don't even know where to start.
Good comment. Susan, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'd be downsized fine. There will now be the third time. I can relate every one of your emotion around the downsize. Concern, finance, emotion, the concept that nobody want what was precious to me. First of all, I have to remember that I'm not that powerful. And because I have a like does no mean they need. What I did then was, and once I'm gone, I really don't have to worry about it. So that a little ornery there. But I did go, I allotted I live out of a room with a bathroom, and really is where my things, all life have now be one room. Chaotic hell, but it's here. And it's comforting to see the things that bring a memory me. Through this process, I write what that item, where that came, how it made me feel, why I hold on the long, where it's at, where I acquired it, to there have time frame, whoever, and I stick them on the bottom. Is like a surprise when they get. I also do the same with holidays. I want to see the joy, the gift to give. This mean a lot to me. I want you. They won't say they don't want it. Just do it. They like it. And it's a connecting thing, them. They like. It's good. Things that there's no interest whatsoever. Tools, you say, Michael, artwork. I have decided that I don't have money. They're gonna get stuff. I not have money. Them family go. So I sell some things. They're just space I know have, and they are really just things. Really, they're just things. So the things that the memory is no so profound and won't ever affect any other, I'm okay, sell that. And then what I look for is what can then do money to help those I would have give that to. How could I use the money for them in other way they would appreciate? Doing it now, finding the ways that work best you. It's like layering of yourself. how does that feel the best to you? With, like you say, Laurie, there's no have to be a derogative. My next move will be into a convert garage. And I could get really sad about that in all my life. Did I ever think I would live in a garage? And that was really dragging my whole emotional, every down. Ugh. And then I decide to think, somebody give me some ideas of what that could look like. Why can't I do that? What can this be beyond black? And the 3 rooms that you're going to inhabit, oh my gosh, it won't feel the way now. I can't pretend to say it will, but there is the possibility that it will be something you create, and with something we turn a cell on in the brain that we never even have think could use, and it feel good because it's you. It's an expression of you. I remember when I threw a fit because lived the family. I'm independent. I don't want to do a book. And they all say, oh, yeah, you are so independent. And now you must learn interdependence. And that's hard to swallow. Because we think we be independent, we on top of world. Turn the page, a new lesson. You will like self when learned though. If that help any all. It's hard. It's a change any circumstance. So hard. But there can be a part you know that ever be there. And I think it's more brilliant you give self credit for. So remember that when you get scared, it'll be okay dokie.
Wow. Wow. Susan, that was amazing. Really.
Oh.
That was really amazing.
You always continue to amaze me, my friend.
You get a lot of time thinking when you're tired.
But I really think that it's not only it's clearly extremely difficult for all of you, and as you just expressed, Susan, but it's also informing and empowering, because I am not aware, and it could be that there was a structured conversation about it in the past in a forum like that. I don't know, but that's the first time that I'm aware of a conversation like that, and that represents the fears and hopes of so many people around the world. All the issues you all described, giving voice to that, acknowledging the challenges. And I want to add, obviously the key is going to be preparation. I always say in working with people with dementia and collaborating with you and with them there's 3 keys, and those keys are relevant to a move. There's 3 keys are preparation, and preparation, right? But then comes the unanticipated things, because we all moved in our lives, and we all know that you plan a move, and then the day of the move, something else happens that was not planned. So how do you deal when you have a cognitive disability, when you have dementia, memory loss, executive function problems, and others? How do you deal with it on the days of the last, day when you're actually about to move, when things don't go as planned? That's another piece there, I think. And I also think that I wish there were moving companies that would learn how to become dementia friendly, that are sensitive, that are aware, that are skilled, that are accommodating, that, they're working with you collaboratively to make it as smooth as possible transition at all stages of the planning, the move, etc., with all the emotional elements to it as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Laurie.
I think one of the biggest things that reasons that it becomes so difficult to give up things is with the early onset Alzheimer's and FTD, my current memory is less than my past memory. I forget what I did yesterday more than I remember what I did before. So when I pick up something I had in high school, I can remember that. And it's like you're giving away part of your memory. And once that item's gone, I won't have it to look at and bring that memory back from the past. I need things to remind me of things that happened or things that I did. And now to give away those things that remind me of events that happened in the past, it's scary because you're afraid that's another piece of my mind, another piece of my memory that's going to go away. When I throw that toy away, I might be throwing away the memory of what was important about that toy. And that's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm going to go up to Paulan and then to Michael. Paulan?
I just wanted to make a short comment, and I think it's another thing that is so critical about this topic is that knowing why we have to downsize, why do we have to move, realizing in our hearts that we're going to progress in our disease. You know, and it's really hard we try to stay in the moment as much as possible, but we're now looking ahead and saying, okay, where am I going to be 5 years from now, physically and mentally and emotionally? And the reason that I'm doing this now is because I know that my disease is progressing. And that's what makes it extra hard.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. Michael, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think what's also important to remember, and I don't know if the rest of you feel this way, but I go out to dinner, and I have trouble figuring out what I want to order on the menu just to decide between two or three things. So when you're having difficulties at that level to do something so simple, well, just imagine how that feels when you're trying to make decisions about items that you have. It's hard to make that decision anymore to want to get rid of something. So it's compounded because of the dementia of making a simple decision.
Mm-hmm. I want to add, God, there's so much I want to talk about because you guys have brought up so many good points. I want to go back to Laurie and kind of making a game out of giving stuff away. Because I think of every Christmas I get together with girlfriends from like 35 years ago, and we do a white elephant gift. And we do, you know, kind of a dice game where you pass them around and you steal and stuff. And I think, well, what a fun way for somebody to give away items, except one person has all the gifts, you know, and they're giving them away. And maybe they have notes on them, like Susan was talking about, writing on what it came from, why you got it, and why it brings you joy. And just to let people see those things, they go home with them, you're rid of them, but you've passed a piece of history, and you'll have a blast as people pick and choose and try to steal from one another some of those gifts. But you've kind of made your point. On the other note of giving things away that trigger memories, I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing to do. You know, I think maybe you prioritize some of those things that have really old attachments too, and you just let the family know, I need to keep this because this is an important memory to me, and I'm frightened if I give this away. This is a piece of me today and yesterday, and this is an anchoring piece for me. And I think that is okay to say. Maybe you decide you're going to give away more recent gifts because they don't have the attachment because of the way the disease progresses. And again, we have to have those conversations with people. Eilon had talked about you wish there were moving companies that are dementia friendly. I know here in Minnesota and out in California, there is a company called Gentle Transitions, and they are not formally, to my knowledge, dementia friendly, but I worked with them a ton when I was in real estate, and they are brilliant. And again, it's a service you have to hire, but they do a wonderful job in terms of weeding through things. And sometimes I think it's easier to weed through things with somebody who isn't a family member or a friend, because we are very opinionated of what is stuff and what is junk and what is, and an outside person doesn't have all those emotions attached. There's not the family dynamics. They're not going to look at my mom's 100, washcloths for 2 people and just want to rip their hair out like I want it to as a daughter, going, what? What are you doing? They will control that and filter that better, and work with you more. So I had one woman, for example, they were forced to sell their house because a school was coming in and going to be built. And they just had tons and tons of stuff. I mean, just tons and tons of stuff. And they were, pushing 90. And this company would come in and they decided for 4 hours at a crack, that was the most they could do. And they would go through box by box. And just having somebody else that you're going through that with kind of agreeing with you and saying, yes, this is okay, I think just can alleviate some of the stressors too. Or no, you already had one of those over here, because it gets overwhelming when you've got all these boxes. And if you're like a lot of people, you have multiples of things at times. Or they would say, instead of taking all your dishes with you, since you don't entertain, why don't you take one piece? Maybe it's a coffee cup and a saucer. And you're just going to use that every day, because that is going to trigger your memories. And but you're going to let somebody else put them to use who does entertain. Those types of things. So, this is huge. The other thing, Laurie, you were talking about pictures from school. And I just know from, now our high school class gets together, several of us, probably anywhere from 15 to 35 of us once a month. And people are starting to collect pictures and passing that on. So when you're ready, maybe that's passed back to the high school or the elementary school for their history's sake. So that it will be appreciated and it will be valued. For the tools and the paintings, maybe you, depending on if you want to sell them, I mean, there's eBay, Facebook even has stuff in your local area. I don't know. I just have my daughter take the pictures and tell her to do it, because she's like, oh, we got bumped, I have to put it back on, and I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. But there are people out there. Maybe it's donating if you belong to a church or a VFW or a Legion, or maybe there's a neighborhood sale or a school. There's a lot of sales that people have that maybe would go to a fund that you would like to support, and that's your way to support it. There's companies I know that we have, like Bridging in the Salvation Army, that will come and pick up items, and they, like one company will say, they'll even take one fork. You don't need a whole set, because there's people that just need silverware, and they don't really care if it's a full place setting. They just want to be able to feed their family, so knowing, and to me, that's important, that value piece that you guys were mentioning, knowing someone else is going to appreciate my stuff, holds a lot of value to me, and maybe that might be some things that would help. The antique doll, we had one of those in our family too, and it's like, and yet maybe there's because there's doll museums that you could donate, and she could just have a place of stature where other people coming in to tour could take part. So those are just some ideas. Laurie, go ahead, and then I'll go to Eilon.
I found that the nieces and nephews don't even want, like, my mother's china or my grandmother's china. Nobody wants china anymore. They just use everyday plates. In I think it's South Carolina, is Replacements Limited. And you can go there if you have a china set and you're missing pieces. They often will have them. Well, they'll buy pieces of your china set.
Okay.
Now, the hard part is you might have 12-piece set of cups and saucers, and all they want is the saucers.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're stuck with cups. But still, they'll pay you for the items that they need.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea. And some people are making like artwork out of china and stuff in the gardens too, and putting them on a stick and selling them, you know, and all of a sudden that cup is a little, you know, holder for birdseed, you know,
Right.
or things. So people are getting really creative. And I've run into the same thing with china. It's like, who really wants it? You know, I got more dishes than I need, even with silver. And you know, you can melt the silver down. And I thought, cow, I'm personally struggling with this with my parents' own stuff. And I took it and it's like, I would like to make wind chimes for everybody. And I know that sounds stupid because you think of the value hanging, clicking in the wind, but I just think it would be something that everybody could share and maybe get some joy out of, you know, but it's hard. Eilon and then Michael.
So first of all, this is a series of great suggestions, Laurie, and I think it's really wonderful. And before we started, you know, you had this piece of furniture, and this day and age, I'm hearing a lot about there's architects and interior designers. I have my wood carving teacher who, you know, wood is very expensive, and you know, you might have a piece that could be recycled or reused by professionals who can't afford to buy the piece of wood in a lumberyard or something like that. So it's a win-win, you know, and just connecting with these individuals, just finding them. The other thing I wanted to mention is to kind of to broaden the conversation a little bit, and while knowing that the majority of people with dementia live in the community, there's also a lot of issues with people who live in long-term care homes, whether it's nursing home, assisted living, and other long-term care homes, in terms of personalization and feeling that the space you live in is familiar to you. It's critically important to many people with dementia in nursing homes, etc. And how much we have local administrators in nursing homes and assisted living that support personalization and overroom with personal items that anchor your identity and your cherished memories, bringing your favorite chair or bringing your favorite items, and how do you keep it safe? I mean, this is a whole separate conversation, but these are people who we don't hear their voice enough, right? And in fact, I met one of the leaders of a Yale University medical school who had to help move his mother, and she had some dementia, and he was aware of the difficulty of transition. And what he did, he replicated one to one, the exact room in which she lived into the new space. And I don't remember if it was a nursing home or another house. And he said that it helped with the transition. And that's not to suggest a deceptive practice. It's more, she was at the stage where it made sense to create that stability in the transition instead of moving to a place that is unfamiliar. And related to that, I will never forget, I had a family member in her early 90s. You talked about noise during the move or construction that is extremely difficult for you guys. I will never forget, there was one day we heard that our family friend who was maybe 92 and she had dementia, she was reported by the staff that she had a behavior. She was very angry and she was expressing a behavior or whatever. And then it turned out that a person who was working at the long-term care home walked into her bedroom without saying anything. She's sitting there, and he's taking a huge drill, and he starts drilling in the ceiling, completely ignoring her as if she's not there. And she got so distressed. And of course she's going to react negatively. She couldn't express it in words. So there was a behavior. And now she's labeled as having a behavior when the guy didn't respect her privacy, didn't ask for permission to come in, wasn't planned with the family. So those things of, construction site in projects in nursing homes and assisted living residences. I think that this is something we don't hear enough about, and it really impacts a lot of people's lives.
Very true. Susan?
Living with family, house, the many things do. Construction. Just the thought they talk of the plans, making, going, do, roof, windows, bathrooms, just when there's just the conversation can immediately start to make me in a place that's not organized, functional. I'm going to probably exhibit a sense of worry and fear. It's like I don't want to do it. And their perception of that chaos and how then I'm going to have to figure a way, be calm, quiet, the life carry on. They're going to have to do it, but I'm the one who have to figure a way to manipulate through it. And because they see as I don't want to help, I isolating, even to point depression, and it really is just I cannot do it. I am no good participate that. Please don't ask me to do that. And also then recognize I'm not stupid. I recognize I can't do it. And I have to come to terms that as well. So it is very disconcerting. And we're asking hired care facility workers to know these things. When our families, many do not even know. This is a big thing ask. I assume the family somehow see day in, day out would just somehow know, Susan, no, do good that. No, gotta explain every time. And that evolves, that continues to evolve. And it's not the same for each person. Some people might actually enjoy hands-on, let's do project. Some people don't want to touch it 10-foot pole, so you can't make a standard protocol that will be effective everybody. So to me, I find that very obstacle. It's like an obstacle when what try make better, understand overall, but realize it's a very personal experience how these projects or the planning of affect each person. But recognizing that even those difficulties, they're no stupid. There's no stupid here. It's just approaching in a different way to be the best function possible. You have to know the person, I guess, every time.
Well, and I think really the conversations like this will help families understand, because a lot of times we don't do a lot of construction projects often, and so people forget, it's just we survived one, we're on to the next one type thing, and each one of them is a little bit different, and everybody's going to be in a different place, the person with dementia and family members as well, in terms of when things hit. Paulan had a comment, and then Laurie.
I just wanted to add that my mother passed away about 2 years ago, and she saved everything. I mean, every newspaper clipping, every obituary card of anybody she'd ever known. She just saved and saved and saved and had boxes and boxes of pictures, and I didn't even know who the people were. A lot of them, so I wound up sorting them out. And when she died, when I went to the funeral, I gave the different parts of the family, here are the photos that I think belong to you, to your family, and that's what I did with all that. But I still have all her newspaper clippings, and it's really hard for me. I want to, I know I have to get rid of them because nobody cares about them, nobody wants them, but she thought enough to keep them for all these years. Mm-hmm. So it's hard. It's hard to get rid of a lot of her things too.
That might make for a really interesting article in terms of, if you'd ever care to do something like that, but to talk about the difficulty it is to give away somebody else's things when you know that they had to be precious, that they stored them. And even though you're not connected to them, it's almost, anyways, for me, I found there was like a heavy guilt for me to throw things away. I had to get rid of pictures. I had huge boxes full of pictures of people I didn't know, and I had sorted through them and sorted through them and sorted through them and sorted through them again, one more time, and made piles for everybody to be able to take. And then I still had all these people that I knew were special in some fashion, but there was nobody left to help me connect the dots. And so if we can start having those conversations and start marking those things, because then I probably would have held on to them if I could have connected the dots somehow, with them to pass them on. But no one in our family took the time to do that. Laurie?
Paulan, first I can relate to you. My mother-in-law saved every rubber band, every twisty tie.
Oh, God.
I cannot tell, and every newspaper clipping. I cannot tell you what it was like going through her home. It was interesting. But what I wanted to say about construction is I'm finding while we're doing one of the bedrooms, it's not just the noise, it's the general disruption. We have all the furniture from one room in another room. So whereas I had that room all set up and ready for company, now it's covered with furniture and different stuff. You go to put something away, your life has become so disorganized and disheveled that your sweet little protective bubble that keeps us mentally sound is now also disrupted and stressful, which just increases the problem. For me, when I go to put the guest towels in the guest bedroom and I can't get into the guest bedroom because the furniture from the other bedroom is in that bedroom, it's the confusion that and disorganization that also causes quite a problem.
Yeah. I want to add too, you guys have mentioned, the visual and the physical movement of stuff and the noise, but I think odors can also come in. If there's glue or varnish or paint, I've heard people say that can really throw them over the top too. So, or even lighting changes, if you're doing wiring or not having plumbing, physical things that you're used to having, a huge deal. Susan, go ahead.
I'm going to say something that most may not like, but I didn't like it about myself, but it's true, that a lot of those things like construction, like you say, Laurie, it's more than just the noise, it's the disorientation. For me, I ashamedly but honestly admit that I don't want you to touch my stuff. Get out, get out, get out, get out. And it is an overwhelming rage and anger and fear. Get out. Leave it alone. Stop touching it. And it can be very irrational. But to me, it does know. It's very profound that I feel almost like a small child. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Don't touch it, don't touch it. And it's query to me why one feels so immature the way we would think, but it's very important to don't touch my things and don't change that, and I'll know if you did, and it's almost to a boundary of like it's like they're invading me and my things, and that sounds so selfish, and I'm not that person at all. I did anything give you, but get out. And I mean it. I feel it. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, I don't think you should feel, that's the way you feel, but I think that it represents something, and it symbolizes how deep and the deep meaning that it has, those items or those things have for you. So I think that people should validate that and respect that. It clearly has profound meaning for you.
Yeah, it's a very strong feeling that is unfamiliar to me.
And now, if someone is in a nursing home, those things happen on a daily basis for a lot of people. For a lot of people, taking others' belongings, walking into others' rooms, taking, fighting over a cloth that is hanging on a chair in the dining room. Who does it belong? There's a lot of that going on as well. I just want to kind of to broaden it into long-term care as well, where the sense of control is really not respected, and the lack of choice and all that. So, yeah.
Great. I want to get to Tru. She's able to come back with us again. Thanks, Tru. What would you like to add? I know we're over time, but I think this is just such a valuable conversation that I'm willing to keep going if everyone else is.
Yeah, you feel violated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I appreciate, Susan, you talking just about the raw emotion, because I think we need to have those conversations. I think people need to understand that, that it's not necessarily rational either, but you can't help it. This is how you feel. And, with this disease, there are a lot of times when people will kind of get a paranoid state. And when somebody's touching your stuff and moving it around, and that you can't track things the way you used to, and maybe your trust level isn't real high because you don't even know who the heck these people are, especially if there's workers, this really becomes more and more justified if we as care partners look at it in a rational sense, knowing what we know about the disease and how much you care about your things, and your space and the need for safety. I'm going to go to Tru and then to Eilon.
After this last event a few days ago, I've discovered that my emotions are much more volatile. It's like this stroke event really strongly affected my emotions, and I'm having terrific problems with it. Or rather, my husband's having terrific problems with it. So often I don't think others consider that the aspect of the disease progression, and that this is a thing that is there and then it's not there, and there and not there. And so they think, well, you didn't have that kind of a problem last month. Why are you having a problem now? Mm-hmm. But that's not how it works.
What?
Yeah. Eilon, you had a comment?
Naomi Feil, the founder of Validation Method, in her groundbreaking book, Dementia, the book is called Validation Breakthrough. It's a third edition. It's a philosophy of working with caring for people with dementia and communicating, especially older people with Alzheimer's disease, I should say. But in the beginning of her book, she shares a story that when she was a child in a nursing home where her mother and father were the administrator and the psychologist, she used to develop relationships with residents and at the nursing home. She basically lived at the nursing home because she was visiting so often. And there was one older lady that was crying and shouting in the corner of the main area. Nobody paid attention to her, but she did, and she developed this relationship with her. And then I don't remember all the details, but the point of the story was that this woman was saying a certain name of a certain object that nobody knew what it was. And it turned out, it took a long time, but it turned out that that object was the name of a toy, a bunny, a furry bunny, a wooden bunny with a fur that her father made to that older woman when she was a child. And nobody knew what she was talking about. She was, they used psychotropic medication to try to calm her down. They ignored her. And Naomi Fine, as a child, had the intuitive wisdom to continue and explore that. They found that that object was taken by her teacher, that older woman, when she was a child. That toy was taken by her teacher and was thrown into a garbage can in front of the entire classroom. And that was a traumatic event for her. And the father left the house at some point. He never came back. And that was the only memory of her father. And that's how Naomi starts her book, that there's always a reason. And those objects have a lot of meaning to these individuals, but oftentimes we don't make enough effort in nursing homes and assisted living, and even in the community, to learn the life history and what were those cherished items. I almost want to suggest that there should be some kind of, every person with dementia should write a list of those most precious items that are meaningful to them, so that people later on will respect those and make sure that those anchoring, as you used, Laurie, earlier, items and objects will be around and familiar to the person, reassuring to the person. And yeah.
And I would go one step further. I think it's not just for people with dementia. I think everyone should do that. I think that is good living. I think that is smart planning, because none of us ever know what's going to happen to us. And even if we never get dementia, and if we, just die a natural state of old age, those things are still going to be of comfort to us.
Right, Laurie, but most people will not, when you have dementia, now it's real. And most, it's like with advanced directives, we know that people should do it. I'm trying to convince my father to do it for several years now. And I still haven't been able to have him complete the process. And people don't want to think about it. But when you have dementia, now it's real. So maybe people are more motivated to do it.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a conversation in general that we have to talk about living well instead of planning for the end well, because nobody wants to plan for the end, and none of us really are in control of that anyway. So I think to me, I think it is a mindset that needs to change throughout all cultures in terms of, being honest about what we have and why we have it. And we have these closed door policies on so many topics, and that's what I love about these conversations, because I think we're opening doors for people to get a true peek of something that doesn't have to be as scary as it is, but it's always going to be scarier when we go through it alone. But if we can go through it together, it takes that edge off, and I think that's really what's been happening throughout the world with the conversations of becoming dementia aware and dementia friendly. It's just having everyday conversations. Paulan had to leave. She had somebody coming to her house to look at furniture that she's weeding out. And Michael had a meeting to go to as well. I know that it's that we're a little bit over time. Anybody have any last comments? Tru? Nothing from you. Susan?
Yeah, you make a point to make a talk to help others understand perspective, the people, the dementia. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to reverberate that back, that it is just as helpful to be heard. Mm-hmm. It validates with others that we're not alone and we're not crazy in head, and that someone gives enough care to take a listen, and that come back good. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, Susan. That was great.
Laurie, well, I think that's a wrap then. As always, we just encourage people to please share these videos with family, with staff, with friends, with colleagues. You know, there's just so much to learn from those living with this disease. And I think there's been so many gifts wrapped in this particular session alone that people are going to be able to walk away and just reframe things and take away some tips in terms of, you know, the process of if it's a move, if it's construction, if it's just living life well, just opening the door to having the conversation about different things. And how they're perceived and why they're perceived the way they are. You know, I listened to this conversation and participated in it, and I think, you know, part of the gift to me through my mom's disease has really been realizing that I'm not so different from somebody with dementia. We have so much more in common than different. And when we hear the voice of those speak, it's like, I deal with that too. I might deal with it on a different level, but we still all struggle with the same types of things. And we need to be more honest on how it touches us and how we react and why we feel as strongly as we do. So again, I just can't thank you all enough for taking this time and being so open.